Welcome to Conspiracist.
Great to be here.
Today we're tackling a really persistent idea surrounding the Nazca Line's Enigma.
Ah, yes, the Nazca lines in Peru.
Yeah.
Truly remarkable.
Exactly. And the hypothesis we're looking at is this. Have governments, intentionally hidden evidence related to these giant desert drawings?
It's a claim that definitely circulates. We've got quite a bit of information here, archaeological findings, some scientific tests, different theories.
Yeah, and our aim today is to really objectively look at the evidence, or lack thereof, behind this specific claim of government concealment. No jumping to conclusions.
Sounds like a plan. So let's start with the lines themselves. We're talking about the Nazca Desert Plain south of Lima in Peru.
Right.
And these enormous geoglyphs, basically pictures etched into the ground, they were created by the Nazca culture.
And the time frame for that was around when?
The general consensus puts it somewhere between 500 BCE and 500 CE, so quite a long period.
And what kinds of figures are we talking about? I know there are animals.
Oh yeah, a whole menagerie. Hummingbirds, spiders, fish, monkeys, llamas, jaguars, lizards, even dogs. Plus, plants, flowers, human-like figures, and lots of straight lines and geometric shapes.
The sheer scale is what gets me. Some are huge, right? You really need to be high up to see the whole picture.
Precisely. Some stretch hundreds of meters.
Yeah.
And that aerial perspective is key. It's why they're so famous, but also why there's so much speculation about how they were made and, well, why.
Mm-hmm. And they're recognized officially, aren't they?
Oh, yes. UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1994. Undeniably significant.
So that very scale, that need for an aerial view, that's kind of the seed for these alternative ideas, isn't it? How could people back then manage that?
That's the question that fuels a lot of the speculation, yeah. How do you design and execute something so massive and precise without, say, an airplane to check your work?
Which naturally leads some people to wonder if the standard archaeological explanation is, well, maybe missing something. Is there a hidden story?
Indeed. And that brings us to theories like the ancient astronaut idea, probably most famously pushed by Erich von Däniken.
Right, the idea that maybe extraterrestrials were involved. Landing strips or instructions from the sky.
That's the gist of it, yeah. It often implies that the Nazca people couldn't have done it alone, that they needed outside help or some kind of lost advanced technology.
But what does mainstream archaeology say about that?
Well, generally there's a lot of skepticism. Archaeologists point out there's just no concrete evidence for, ancient aircraft or alien visitors, or even surveying techniques beyond what we think the Nazca were capable of.
I remember reading somewhere about an early researcher joking about landing fields.
You might be thinking of Paul Kosak.
Yeah.
He apparently made an off-the-cuff comparison, sort of jokingly, between the lines and prehistoric landing fields, or even the canals on Mars. It wasn't meant as a serious scientific hypothesis, more like expressing the sheer wonder of the site.
Okay. And wasn't there something about von Däniken misinterpreting a photo?
Yes. Jim Woodman pointed out that a photo von Däniken used as evidence was actually just a close-up of the knee joint on one of the large bird figures, not some kind of technical apparatus.
So misunderstandings and maybe some wishful thinking play a role. But what do archaeologists think? How could they have made them?
Okay, so there's actually some really interesting experimental archaeology on this. Joe Nickel and his team did a project.
Oh, yeah. What did they do?
They basically set out to recreate one of the large figures, I think it was a 440-foot condor, using only simple tools and techniques thought to be available to the Nazca people.
So no advanced tech, no planes.
None at all. They used things like scaled-down plans, a central line marked on the ground, and then ropes and stakes to plot out the outline using coordinates derived from the plan. Basic geometry and surveying, essentially.
And how did it turn out?
Remarkably well, apparently. They successfully recreated the condor shape accurately. It strongly suggested that, it was possible to create these huge figures without needing to see them from the air during the construction process.
So you could follow the plan on the ground.
Exactly. And it's also worth noting, even for the big figures, you can often make out the shape, or at least sections of it, from nearby hills or even just walking along the lines. You don't necessarily need to be thousands of feet up to know what you're creating.
That makes sense. It grounds the process, so to speak, provides a plausible method.
It does. It offers a practical explanation rooted in skills we know ancient cultures possessed.
Okay, moving on a bit. Research doesn't stand still. Have there been any recent discoveries that change how we see the Nazca lines?
Actually, yes, quite significantly. With modern tech, like AI analyzing aerial and satellite photos, researchers recently found a huge number of previously unknown geoglyphs. One study reported finding 303 new ones.
Wow, 303. That's incredible. That nearly doubles the number known, doesn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. It was a massive leak in the inventory.
Were these new ones similar to the known figures or something different?
A mix, really. Some fit the familiar patterns, animals, geometric shapes, but there were also some more unusual designs found. Things like orcas apparently shown holding knives.
Orcas with knives. Okay,
Yeah.
that is unexpected.
Definitely adds a new layer to their symbolism. But importantly, these discoveries, even the unusual ones, still seem to fit within the broader Nazca cultural context.
So they don't necessarily point towards, say, hidden alien intervention or government cover-ups.
No, not inherently. They mostly just expand our understanding of the Nazca people's art, their beliefs, their world. It suggests maybe even more complexity and variety than we previously appreciated.
Interesting. So more data, but fitting the existing framework, more or less.
Generally speaking, yes. It enriches the picture of the Nazca culture itself.
Yeah, there's another topic that always seems to come up alongside Nazca, and it's a bit unusual. The Nazca mummies.
Ah, yes. Those claims. There have been reports circulating for a while now about supposedly non-human remains found near the Nazca lines.
Often presented as proof of aliens or some undiscovered species, right?
That's often the narrative attached to them, yes. One particularly famous case involved a mummified body that had only 3 fingers and 3 toes.
I think I've seen pictures of that one. Very strange looking.
Visually striking, definitely. And proponents claimed it was evidence of something non-human.
But what did science say? Was it tested?
It was. DNA testing was carried out by a lab called Alpha Biolabs, and the results were, well, quite clear. The analysis concluded that the mummy was 100% human.
100%. So, despite the unusual appearance, completely human.
According to that DNA analysis, yes. It directly refutes the claims of it being alien or a new species. It might have been a human with genetic abnormalities or perhaps someone who was deliberately modified after death, but the basic material was human.
Okay, that's pretty definitive for that specific mummy. But are there others? There were more claims, weren't there?
There are other alleged mummies, yes, and their authenticity is, frankly, highly debated. Serious concerns have been raised, particularly online and within scientific circles.
Sounds like what?
Like the possibility that some of these might actually be fakes. Fabrications, potentially assembled using parts from different animals, maybe some human parts too, to create something that looks sensational.
Right, hoaxes, basically.
That's the suspicion surrounding some of them. And the key thing here is the lack of rigorous, peer-reviewed scientific evidence. For any extraordinary claim, like finding non-human remains, you need extraordinary proof.
Which means proper scientific study.
Absolutely. Comprehensive DNA analysis, C14 dating, anatomical studies, all published in reputable scientific journals where other experts can scrutinize the findings.
And that hasn't happened for these other alleged mummies?
For many of them, no. That kind of transparent, rigorous verification is missing, and that leads to deep skepticism in the scientific community, especially, when some of these claims are pushed by individuals who might have a track record of promoting, let's say, unsubstantiated or even previously debunked finds.
So it comes back to evidence. Verified scientific evidence is crucial.
It's the cornerstone of the scientific process. Without it, claims remain just that, claims.
This whole discussion around ancient astronauts and fabricated mummies seems to touch on a broader issue, something called pseudo-archaeology.
Yes, that term fits. Pseudo-archaeology refers to interpretations about the past that kind of operate outside or even contradict the established methods and evidence of mainstream archaeology.
Like bringing in aliens or lost super-civilizations without solid proof?
Exactly. They often rely on speculation, misinterpretation of evidence, or sometimes just ignore contradictory data. The theories about Nazca being alien landing strips would fall into that category.
So it's a clash between academic methods and, well, more speculative ideas.
You could put it that way. Academic archaeology insists on rigorous methodology, verifiable evidence, and explanations that fit within the known cultural and historical context. Pseudo-archaeology often bypasses that rigor, sometimes prioritizing a sensational narrative over factual support.
It's important to distinguish between the two when we're evaluating these kinds of claims.
Absolutely critical, especially when trying to figure out what's plausible versus what's purely speculative.
Now, amidst all the speculation, there's one figure who really stands out for her dedication to the scientific study of the lines, Maria Rieke.
Ah, yes, Maria Rieke, a truly pivotal figure, German mathematician and archaeologist.
She spent decades there, didn't she?
Over 50 years. She dedicated most of her adult life to the Nazca lines, starting way back in the 1940s.
What was her main contribution?
So much. She meticulously measured, mapped, and cleaned the geoglyph. She was one of the first to systematically study them from the ground, and she fiercely advocated for their preservation.
Trying to protect them from damage.
Constantly. From traffic, development, erosion. She was their guardian, in many ways. She also developed her own theories, famously proposing that the lines functioned as a massive astronomical calendar.
So her work was grounded in careful observation and measurement.
Very much so. Her legacy is all about that dedication to scientific rigor and the preservation of this incredible site. A stark contrast to some of the more outlandish theories.
Okay, so we've covered quite a bit. The lines themselves, how they might have been made, recent discoveries, the mummy controversies, and figures like Reisha. Let's circle back to our main question for this deep dive.
The government concealment hypothesis.
Exactly. Based on everything we've discussed, drawing only from this information we have in front of us, what can we objectively say about the idea that governments are intentionally hiding evidence related to the Nazca lines?
Well, looking strictly at the archaeological research, the experimental reproductions like Nichols, the scientific analysis of things like that three-fingered mummy, and even the recent AI-driven discoveries,
Yeah.
there really doesn't seem to be any actual evidence within these sources pointing towards intentional government concealment. Nothing suggests information is being suppressed.
So the scientific explanations seem plausible on their own.
Yes. The methods for creating the lines, while ingenious, appear achievable with the technology at the time. The new discoveries are being published openly, expanding knowledge, not hiding it. And the mummy claims, at least the one scientifically tested here, were debunked through open scientific process.
So the narrative doesn't require a cover-up to make sense.
Not based on this information, no. The story seems to be one of a fascinating ancient culture, ongoing discovery using new tools, and the scientific examination of unusual claims. The concealment element doesn't appear to be supported by the evidence we've reviewed today.
It's understandable why such a mysterious place inspires those kinds of thoughts, though.
Oh, absolutely. Giant pictures in the desert you can only see from the sky. It practically invites speculation. But the evidence we have points towards human ingenuity and a continuous process of research and understanding.
Well, thank you. That was a really thorough, objective look at the information surrounding this specific Nazca hypothesis.
It's always interesting to sift through the different layers of these stories. And perhaps a final thought for you to consider. How do we, as humans, navigate that tension between wanting grand, simple answers to mysteries and the reality that scientific understanding often comes slowly, piece by piece?
That's a great question to ponder. Thanks for listening to Conspiracist.